Welcome back to the deep dive. And, wow. If you feel like you need a high-speed orbital transfer just to keep up with AWS infrastructure releases lately, well, you're definitely not alone.
Hey, tell me about it. It's relentless.
So our mission today is pretty straightforward. Pure technical distillation. We've waded through the AWS announcements from October 20th to 24th, 2025.
Yep. And we've pulled out what we think are the critical infrastructure, data, and security updates. The stuff that's actually going to impact, your performance, your costs, and definitely your compliance posture.
We're going next-gen silicon, these new specialized security regions, some really interesting operational monitoring tools, too.
Things that should hopefully make ops teams' lives a bit easier.
Okay, let's get into it. Starting with compute. Scaling seems to have gotten a lot smarter, especially thinking globally.
Yeah, definitely. The big news here was the expansion of predictive scaling for EC2 auto-scaling.
Right. 6 new regions. I saw Asia Pacific, Hyderabad, and Melbourne, Israel, Tel Aviv, Canada, West Calgary, and Europe, Spain, and Zurich. Pretty wide coverage now.
It is. But the key question, maybe for folks still using reactive scaling, is what's the real operational win here? Why switch?
Good point.
Well, it fundamentally shifts how you handle load. Instead of just reacting after demand spikes, predictive scaling learns your historical patterns. Those regular Monday morning rushes or month-end peaks. It learns those and starts launching instances before the demand actually hits. So you're ready for it.
So you avoid that lag time, the potential performance dip while things scale up. And presumably less over-provisioning just in case.
Exactly. You sidestep the performance hit, and you often reduce costs because you're not keeping instances running just in case quite as much. It's more precise.
And I like that they included the forecast-only mode. That seems pretty useful.
Yeah, that's smart. It lets you see what the policy would do based on your actual history without, actually changing anything in production.
It gives the tech teams a chance to preview the scaling economics. See if it makes sense for them before flipping the switch.
Right. Okay, sticking with performance, but moving to monitoring. There are 2 new CloudWatch metrics for EC2 instances with EBS volumes.
Oh yeah, I saw these. The instance EBS IOPS exceeded check, and the instance EBS throughput exceeded check.
These sound simple, but why are they actually a big deal?
Well, historically, figuring out if your instance size was choking your EBS performance or if the volume itself was the limit, it involved a lot of digging through metrics, graphing, maybe some guesswork. Now, these checks just return a 1 if your workload is trying to push more IOPS or throughput than the instance itself can handle via its EBS optimization connection. It's a direct flag. Your EC2 instance is the bottleneck here.
Instantly points you in the right direction. That's huge for troubleshooting.
Exactly. And they're available at 1-minute frequency by default on all the Nitro-based instances.
So you can just set an alarm directly on that 1 status. Cuts down that mean time to repair significantly for I/O issues. A real operational win.
Definitely. Okay, let's talk silicon. We saw the general availability of the IAG instances. These are storage optimized, running on Graviton 4.
Right. Graviton 4 is giving, up to 60% better compute performance compared to previous generations?
Yeah, but the key here seems to be pairing that compute with the latest 3rd-gen AWS Nitro SSDs.
That's the synergy. So the target workloads, think high I/O transactional databases like MySQL, PostgreSQL, maybe AirSpike, or even some AI stuff like LLM preprocessing.
They get both the compute power and really low storage latency because of those fast SSDs. It's purpose-built for I/O-heavy tasks.
Precisely. An architecture really designed to minimize that storage wait time.
And then kind of at the other end of the scale, the big memory machines, the U7i 6TB high memory instances.
Oh yeah, the behemoths.
Yeah.
6 terabytes of DDR5 RAM.
They expanded availability to US East Ohio and Europe London. That's just a clear win if you're running massive in-memory databases like SCP-HANA, right? Makes lift and shift easier.
Absolutely. More options for those really demanding workloads.
Okay, before we leave compute, serverless got an interesting update. Lambda async invocation payload size.
Yes. Quadrupled. From 256 KB up to 1 millib.
Which, on the face of it, sounds great, especially for event-driven stuff, maybe passing larger JSON objects, or, like you mentioned, bigger prompts for LLMs without needing to chunk them up beforehand.
Definitely a quality of life improvement there. Fewer hoops to jump through, but...
There's always a but, isn't there, the pricing?
Exactly. This is where you need to pay close attention. It's not just pay for 1 millib like you paid for 256 KB.
How does it work again?
So you get charged 1 request for the initial 256 KB, same as before. But for anything over that 256 KB, you get charged an additional request for every 64 KB chunk, all the way up to the 1 millib limit.
Okay, so 1 millib payload isn't just one request. It's 1 plus.
Yeah.
124, 256, 64.
Yeah.
Carry the one like 13 requests.
Something like that, yeah. It's chunked pricing. So if you're consistently sending large payloads, you really need to model that cost impact. It could add up unexpectedly if you're not careful.
Right. Feels less like a free upgrade and more like a carefully priced feature expansion. Good to know.
Definitely something to factor into budgets.
And one last compute note.
Yeah.
AWS Nitro Enclaves. The super secure, isolated compute environments.
Yeah.
Now available in all AWS regions. Full stop.
Shut.
New Zealand, Spain, Tel Aviv, everywhere.
Wow. Okay. So that capability for processing highly sensitive data with a reduced attack surface is now universally accessible. That's pretty significant reach.
It is. Okay, let's shift gears. From compute performance to data management and resiliency.
Makes sense. The zero ETL integration between DynamoDB and Redshift got another region, Asia Pacific, Taipei.
Right, but the interesting technical bit alongside that was the history mode feature. What does that actually let analysts do?
History mode is pretty neat. It basically helps you solve a common and sometimes tricky data warehousing problem without writing a bunch of custom code. It lets you easily build look-back reports or type 2 slowly changing dimension tables, SCD2, using your DynamoDB data that's now in Redshift.
SCD2. Remind me why that's important.
It's about tracking history. An SCD2 table keeps a record of every historical version of a row. So if a customer's address changes, you don't just overwrite the old one. You keep the old record marked as historical and add the new one.
Ah, so you can always look back and see what the state was at a specific point in time. Crucial for audits or analyzing trends over time.
Exactly. History mode makes building those tables much simpler for DynamoDB data flowing into Redshift.
That does sound like it removes a heavy lift. Also on the ingestion front, Redshift autocopy from S3 expanded too.
Yeah, that feature where Redshift automatically and continuously loads new files that appear in an S3 prefix rolled out to Malaysia, Thailand, Mexico, and Taipei. Good for simplifying data pipelines in those regions.
Okay, now database security and resilience. RDS for SQL Server got a couple of key updates. First, encryption for native S3 backups.
Right. Now supports using SSE KMS server-side encryption with AWS Key Management Service.
And for the compliance folks out there, why is SSE KMS often preferred or even required over the default SSE S3?
Control, mainly. With SSE S3, AWS manages the encryption key. With SAC KMS, you control the key through KMS. You manage its policies, rotation, etc. For many regulated industries, that customer-controlled key is a non-negotiable requirement.
Got it. Just got to remember to set up those KMS key policies correctly.
Absolutely. The second SQL Server update seems like a real time saver for database restores, retaining change data capture CD3 settings.
Oh, that's huge. So previously, if you restored a SQL Server database from a backup, you'd lose all your CDC configuration.
Yeah.
The tables being tracked, the capture jobs.
Yeah, it was a pain. You'd have to manually re-enable and reconfigure everything after the restore, which also meant a gap where changes weren't being captured.
But now,
when you initiate the restore, you can specify a new option, keep PCDC, and it does what it says, keeps all that CDC metadata and settings intact. Your change tracking just picks right back up post-restore. That simplifies DR testing and actual recovery significantly. Nice one. Okay, shifting to analytics, Amazon QuickSight.
yeah, the new visual data preparation experience went GA, general availability.
Yeah.
This is aimed at analysts who need to blend different data sources without writing SQL or code, right?
Exactly. And the big improvements are really about scale and complexity. They increase the number of dataset source levels you can chain together from 3 to 10.
Okay, more steps in the workflow.
But the really impactful change, I think, is the support for 20x larger cross-source joins. They say up to 20 Gigi now.
20 gigs for an in-memory join within QuickSight itself.
Wow. Yeah, that means you can tackle much more complex data mashups and transformations directly in the tool before you even start building visuals. Less reliance on pre-processing elsewhere.
That definitely expands its capability for serious data prep. And one quick data note, S3 metadata expanded regions.
Right. The automated near real-time metadata service for S3 objects, including system and custom tags, is now in Europe, Frankfurt, Ireland, and Asia-Pacific, Tokyo. Just broader availability for that queryable metadata feature.
Good stuff. All right, let's move into section 3, security, auditing, and those specialized environments.
And the big headline here has to be the launch of the AWS Secret-West Region.
A second specialized region following Secret East. What's the specific mandate for this one?
This is explicitly for workloads classified up to the secret U.S. security classification level. It's built and accredited to meet standards like ICD 503 and DoD SRG Impact Level 6 or IL6.
So think intelligence community, Department of Defense workloads requiring that high level of security and compliance, plus geographic separation from the East region for resiliency.
Exactly. It's not just another availability zone. It's a purpose-built, high-assurance environment.
And speaking of high-assurance environments, some important networking tools landed in AWS GovCloud US.
Yeah, VPC Reachability Analyzer and VPC Network Access Analyzer. These are now available in both GovCloud US East and US West.
Why are these particularly important for teams operating inside GovCloud?
They serve two critical but distinct functions for governance and operations. Reachability Analyzer helps you diagnose why traffic can't get from point A to point B. Is there a missing route table entry? A misconfigured security group? It pinpoints connectivity failures.
Okay, so that's troubleshooting connectivity. What about Network Access Analyzer?
That's more about verifying compliance. It checks if network paths adhere to your security policies. For example, it can tell you if traffic between 2 points could potentially bypass a required firewall or inspection VPC. It verifies that traffic must follow the intended secure paths.
Ah, so one finds broken paths, the other finds insecure paths, both crucial in regulated environments.
Definitely. Essential tools for proving and maintaining network security posture.
Okay, let's talk operational observability. CloudWatch got a new feature for interactive incident reports.
Yeah, this looks interesting. The idea is after you've finished investigating an incident, CloudWatch can help you generate a detailed report.
How does it work? Does it just pull logs?
It seems more integrated than that. It says it automatically gathers and correlates telemetry. So metrics, logs, traces presumably, but also actions taken during the investigation, and maybe findings from other AWS services like Guard Duty or Inspector.
And puts it all into a timeline.
Yeah, a timeline, an assessment of the impact, root cause analysis, and recommendations. The goal seems to be to standardize and speed up that post-incident review process, which often involves manually pulling data from all over the place.
Could save a lot of engineering time spent on writing postmortems, potentially. Formalizes the process.
That seems to be the aim. Now, for container folks, especially using ECS...
More visibility.
Yep. You can now get CloudTrail data events for specific Amazon ECS agent API activities.
Okay, getting down into the weeds here.
Yeah.
What kind of agent activities are we talking about?
Things like eCoke poll, when the agent checks in with the control plane, eCoaster start telemetry session, and eXploit system log events.
Why would you need to audit those low-level actions?
Security and deep troubleshooting. It gives security teams a high-fidelity audit trail of exactly what the ECS agent is doing on the instance, how its IAM role is being used, and for ops, it could help diagnose really subtle communication issues between the agent and the ECS service.
Okay, fine-grained visibility for specific use cases. Makes sense.
And one more CloudWatch agent update, this one for Windows users.
Ah, the Windows event log filters.
Right. Previously, configuring which Windows events got sent to CloudWatch logs was a bit limited. Now you have much more granular control.
You can filter by event level, like error, warning, information.
Yep, or by specific event IDs, or even use regular expressions to include or exclude events based on their content.
So you can finally filter out all that informational noise you don't care about and just send the critical errors and warnings.
Exactly. It's a direct way to optimize log ingestion, reduce the volume of data you're sending and storing, and ultimately cut down on logging costs. Ship only what matters.
Nice. That's a practical improvement. Okay, section 4, application development and some AI features.
Right. Kicking off with Amazon Bedrock Data Automation, BDA. Some updates there for handling different media types.
Yeah, they added support for more video formats, AVI, MKV, WBM, and also the AV1 and MPEG-4 visual codecs.
This is clearly aimed at generative AI applications that need to ingest and process diverse video sources, maybe archival footage or different camera outputs.
And they also mentioned up to 50% faster image processing, just a general performance boost for image-based Gen AI tasks using BDA.
Always welcome. On the actual model side, Amazon Nova, their foundational models, got some new controls.
This is about content moderation, right?
Yes. For approved business use cases, you can now customize the content moderation settings for both Nova Lite and Nova Pro models.
What does customize mean here? Can you turn it off?
Not quite turn it off, it seems, but rather adjust the sensitivity across different categories. Safety, sensitive content, fairness, security. It allows organizations to fine-tune the model's guardrails based on their specific context or industry needs, maybe be slightly more permissive or restrictive in certain areas.
Okay, so more nuanced control over the responsible AI aspects within limits.
Seems that way. Now, a quick note for the DevOps and MLOps crowd using SageMaker.
What's new in SageMaker Studio?
You can now connect SageMaker Studio directly to your pre-existing Amazon Athena workgroups to run queries.
Instead of SageMaker potentially spinning up its own query compute.
Exactly. Athena workgroups are often already set up with specific access controls, query limits, and cost controls. This lets data scientists and ML engineers leverage those existing governed Athena environments directly from SageMaker.
Better resource management, better cost control, reuses existing configurations.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, nice integration touch. Finally, let's look at Amazon Connect, the cloud contact center service. There were several updates here.
Felt like a focus on agent experience and compliance.
I agree. First up was the preview dialing mode for outbound campaigns.
How's that different from standard predictive or progressive dialing?
With preview mode, the system presents the customer's information to the agent first. The agent gets a moment to review the contact account details, previous interactions, etc., before they initiate the call.
So the agent is fully prepped when the call connects. I can see how that helps with personalization. Any compliance angle?
Potentially, yes. For regulations like TCPA in the US or OFCOM rules in the UK that have strict requirements about abandoned calls or connection delays, giving the agent control over initiating the call after previewing can help manage compliance risks associated with automated dialers.
Okay, makes sense. What else for Connect?
Granular permissions for accessing recordings and transcripts.
Meeting.
You can now configure separate permissions for who can listen to call recordings versus who can read the transcripts, and even finer control over who can download redacted versions versus unredacted versions.
That's critical for managing sensitive data, like PII or payment info that might be redacted in the transcript but still present in the audio. Essential for data privacy officers.
Absolutely. They also added threaded email views. Pretty self-explanatory groups email conversations into threads like a standard email client.
It just makes it easier for agents and customers to follow the history of an email interaction. Good usability improvement.
And the last one was quite smart. Automated follow-up evaluations.
How did that work?
It allows you to automatically trigger a second quality evaluation based on the results of the first one.
Okay, give me an example.
Say, an initial evaluation uses AI analytics and flags that a customer expressed strong interest in buying a specific product during a call. Based on that flag, the system could automatically schedule a follow-up evaluation, perhaps for a human reviewer, focusing specifically on the agent's sales technique and how well they handled that buying signal.
I see. So it chains evaluations together for more targeted coaching or quality checks based on specific call events. Clever automation.
Yeah, helps focus quality efforts where they're most needed.
All right, that covers a lot of ground. If we try to boil this week down, the theme feels like deep technical optimization, often with compliance baked right in.
I'd agree with that. You see Graviton 4 paired with those Nitro SSDs specifically to crush I/O limits for databases. Then you have CloudWatch giving you those instant EBS bottleneck checks right at the instance level. It's getting very granular.
Right. And your point earlier about the monitoring and auditing.
Exactly. Look at the CloudWatch updates, the I/O checks, the automated incident reporting, plus the deeper audit trails in ECS via the agent APIs, and the improved security for SQL Server backups with SSE KMS and CDC retention.
It feels like AWS is embedding more and more high-resolution telemetry and security verification directly into the core services.
Yeah, making detailed auditing and observability less of an add-on task and more just part of the standard operational fabric, which is a significant shift.
That technical depth, that embedding of security, brings us nicely to our final provocative thought for you, the listener. We saw the launch of the AWS Secret-West Region, adding another high-security island. But we also saw Nitro Enclaves become available in every single AWS region globally.
So you have these specialized, highly accredited regions, but also this capability for creating isolated, secure compute environments pretty much anywhere.
Right. So the provocative thought is this. What does this widespread availability of isolated, highly compliant infrastructure, both dedicated regions and universally available enclaves, mean for how you'll architect multi-region confidential workloads in the future? And maybe more fundamentally, how does it change your security team's definition of the edge when high-security compute can exist virtually anywhere?
That's a meaty one. Decentralized high security. Lots to think about there in terms of architecture and trust boundaries.
Definitely something to chew on.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the latest AWS updates.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week with more technical analysis. Until then, keep digging into those docs.